Once again, this truck has given me fits and conniptions. We've got a parasitic drawl. It sits here for a couple days, batteries are flat. So let's check that out and verify and find it and see if we can come to a resolution. So the HVAC module in these trucks, the head unit inside with the controls on it, you know, the dials and knobs and buttons and twisty turny things and sliders and all that stuff, these are known to fail and not power down basically when you turn the truck off. Also the gauge cluster, the body control module, all that stuff. The stepper motors in the gauge cluster can kind of fail and keep a parasitic drawl, a tiny little drawl in the background that adds up over time and runs your batteries dead. Basically, there's what's called a keep alive function. When you shut the truck down, there's a timer, and after a couple of minutes, it'll shut down all the computers into sleep mode, which they still draw a little bit to keep the memory of the computers alive, but it won't supposedly be large enough to run the batteries dead, except over the course of maybe a month or two. Well, we all know that doesn't work properly, and usually after, you know, 3 or 4 weeks, your batteries are completely dead in these trucks. Even things like these Trailblazers, same deal. All the GMs of this generation, basically the computers all work the same way with that keep alive function. Sometimes, if there's a malfunction though, it won't go into sleep mode and it'll stay in keep alive mode. And that's where we get the failures. That's one possibility. The other possibility is failing parts. Like I said, sometimes the blower motor resistor can cause a drawl if it fails. I'm not opening the doors or anything right now because it's been sitting here a while. So for our testing purposes, all the keep alive stuff should be shut down because it's been here a while like this. So I've resorted to using the really expensive oscilloscope slash multimeter because I can't get an accurate reading with anything else. So we're drawing 2 amps right now, and I think it's been dead long enough that the keep alive function should not be active. So let's start by pulling the gauge cluster fuse. That didn't change. Oh no, there we have a drop. Let's put it back in just for reference. Yep, popped up 2.04. Okay, pull it out again. Okay, so that's about 0.4 amps right there. So what else? HVAC. Yeah, maybe we got a 0.05 maybe. Put it back in. 0.05. So I'm going to record these amp drops, and then I'm going to, and I do have the other battery disconnected. That's important because you want it all going through one so it's not like a split draw. So I'm going to record these, and I'm going to pull, basically I'm going to pull fuses until this goes down to 0, I think. So yeah, let's do that. I think the spec on this is 0.04, 0.05 amp draw, just sitting there static. So I pulled the radio fuse. The radio is drawing 1 1/4 amps. See, this hasn't gone down at all. This still says 2. That's why I don't think this works. So the radio and the driver information center gauge cluster, that drew a little bit, and the HVAC unit drew a little bit. So I have those 3 fuses back in just to make sure that the stay alive function isn't working. I'm going to leave this here for 10 minutes. We'll make sure that that doesn't drop. So right about 5 minutes in, we dropped. One of them timed out. I need to know which one timed out though, so we're going to have to do this test again with only 1 fuse put in. Let's try the HVAC. So right now we're at 0.06. Put in the HVAC fuse. So when this reaches 0, the rest of our 10-minute timer, it should be dropped down if the stay alive function is working. If we don't get down to that 0.05-ish range, it's still going to be too high. Okay, timer's gone off. That's still going. So that's been a total of more than 10 minutes. It has not dropped significantly. Yes, it's dropped a little, but it's still too high to sit there alone by itself. We're going to pull that one. So let's do the same thing now with the driver information center instrument panel cluster. Okay, so 0.05, put that in. Jumps up to 0.8. Less than a minute. Okay. Let's repeat that test just to be sure. Oh, yep, there it is. It dropped again. Okay, good. We don't have to worry about the instrument cluster. That is kind of the reverse of what I thought it would be. So that one's timing out correctly. So now we can actually leave that in, and because we have our baseline, the radio. We're 0.05, fuse is going in, jumps up to 2. Okay, we'll come back in 10 minutes and see if that dropped. So at 5 minutes, the radio did indeed time out, which leaves just the HVAC fuse. Yeah, so 10 minutes, HVAC does not time out. The others do, but that one doesn't seem to want to when they're all connected. I think that might be our culprit. Well, generally the solution for this is to fix the problem. So we've got, by that I mean the root of the problem. So we've got a Dorman HVAC unit in there, and it is a real Dorman. It's not the knockoff, because we had the knockoff that failed. We got rid of that. We got the real Dorman one. So apparently the Dorman one isn't timing out properly. So I've researched this problem extensively, and apparently the Dorman HVAC head units have a problem with a higher amperage draw than factory in sleep mode. So even in sleep mode, if it goes to sleep, which apparently it is, it's still too high of an amp draw. And apparently this is a well-known problem. Dorman has never seemed to address it that I can find, and unfortunately we're stuck with it. So I have some options here. I could go get an original factory HVAC unit. Unfortunately, the original one that was in there is long gone. So what options do we have without spending a lot of money? Because that's the goal here. Well, the main thing people seem to do is to reroute the HVAC fuse such that it only powers on when you have ignition power to it. Now, the downside there is, I believe, no one, you know, the internet being what it is, I haven't been able to find good data on whether that does a recal every time for your actuators, which is bad for them, doing a recal every time you start it up. And I can't find any data on that. My guess is it's going to do a recal every time, because I believe pulling that fuse pulls power to the head unit, and then it activates a recal every time. If that's the case, it'll do recal every time we start the ignition. Well, it's either that or have a dead battery. So between the two, for right now I'm going to pick the recal, and although changing actuators are a pain, if I have to, I can get to them all in this truck, even if the upper one is a pain. Anyway, so what we're going to do is change the fuse. So we're going to take off power with one of these fuse taps, and we're going to, so this, whenever we're going to put this on an ignition circuit fuse, it's only active with the ignition in on or start, and we're going to run this to whatever the circuit we're powering, which is the HVAC fuse, through a relay, so that when you hit this, it'll power a relay, and the relay will activate the other circuit. I'm going to cut off the fuse end of this and use the tap part and run this to the relay, so that the relay will complete the circuit to power the HVAC fuse, and that's all it'll do. So let me get this set up here, and then I'll give you the run through of exactly how to wire it. So the way this works is the bottom fuse here replaces the fuse that you're slotting this into, and this is the new fuse for the takeoff here. So we're going to slide this in here when the time comes, and I guess there's enough room to lay a relay up here, and we'll run this. This will come from the relay, and the relay will supply power back to that slot again. So let me get that little arrangement wired up and I'll show you. Okay, here's what we have. I'll clean up this ground wire in a minute. So we need a ground because we need to trigger the relay. Ground is active all the time. I just wired it into this support bolt over here. So when we get power to this fuse, in other words, when the ignition is turned on, it activates the relay and also activates this circuit, which I've put a fuse in here. So this fuse replaces this fuse. All this fuse is doing is fusing this leg, the relay leg of the circuit. So our airbag circuit is still protected by the regular fuse, which is a 15 amp and a 10 amp, so this one should blow first if something's wrong. Our 10 amp protects the out leg, which activates this circuit. It is not this circuit itself. This circuit is its own. It just comes up here from the power side of this fuse, which is, you know, active all the time, and then goes through the relay. The relay closes or opens the switch. The relay will close the switch when it has power, then it goes through the fuse and back to the other leg again to supply power to the whole circuit. And with this setup like this, you can get this on, I don't remember, which way is it? This way? You can get the lid on, so that part isn't a problem. There's just enough room here to jam all that down in there, and it's completely undoable if you wanted to do it. This wire just runs down here and out, and I'm gonna zip tie that up, you know, professionally or something. And so let's test. So it is running a recal, and it, okay, there it went off. There's a series of lights on these Dorman units that turn on to activate, to show what recal it's doing. Okay, we got some structural zip ties here. Make sure that wire doesn't float away. And yes, I know it's a bad idea to run a ground into your fuse panel, but it's up above the fuses. It does have a, you know, insulated connector. Anyway, I'm aware they don't give you many options here though. Yeah, I could put it outside the fuse box, but you know, the relay is better in there. That's what I'm saying. So now if this works the way I think it will, when we turn it to run again, it'll go through that recal. Yep. So it's going to do a recal every time. And that is unfortunate, but there's no way around it. I've researched this as extensively as the internet will allow me to. And a lot of people have the same experience with these Dorman aftermarket head units. Other than if you drive your vehicle every day, you're probably okay. But if you let it sit 2 or 3 days, that's when you're going to start to run into trouble. And right now, I'm not running this truck every day, and I stopped driving it every day for a while, and that's when the problem started. That's when I noticed it. So let's start it up. So it went off during the start process. Let's see if it does a recal. Okay, it did not do a recal from run to start. That's fine. And of course your temperature will have to be readjusted from that default 75 every time, I imagine. So these are bad things. And I don't know what to do about that. I mean, obviously the best thing to do is to go buy a factory original HVAC unit. I don't think GM is selling them anymore, but maybe they are. But the original factory unit that has different programming, that has a lower draw. And I think it's actually the programming. I don't think it's the unit itself. Now Dorman makes the whole unit. It's a complete reproduction unit. So they may have designed the electrical engineering slightly differently. It may not have 100% of the same components, so it may require that higher power draw. I don't know. The other thing is the Dorman unit is made to run in a whole, well, every unit that uses that head unit, which is why it has the calibration program. Whereas the GM unit is specifically for whatever vehicle they put it in. So in that regard, maybe the Dorman unit requires more power because it has, you know, the capability of all the vehicles, whereas the GM head unit doesn't, and maybe that requires the higher amp draw. So that was a trade-off that they chose to make. Again, you won't notice it if you drive your vehicle every day, but if you let it sit for a while between driving it, that's when it starts to run the battery dead. It's not a huge draw, but it's enough that it'll make a difference. Okay, so I've had this implemented for a while now. It does work. It doesn't run the batteries dead. I can let the truck sit for a week if I need to. It'll fire up. Downsides. So the upside is that it does work. To solve the purpose that we're trying to do, which is to reduce the battery load from the Dorman HVAC unit. Downside is that every time you start up the truck, you got to wait because it's got to go through that startup calibration cycle. It's calibrating the HVAC actuators every time. That seems to be less of a concern right now because although it's doing that, I don't hear any damage, like where it reaches the end and goes tick, 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 tick. It seems to be working, you know, not exceeding its operational limits on each actuator. If that'll keep going, then we're fine, because it doesn't hurt the actuators to cycle, it only hurts when they go too far. So, I've also noticed, and I don't know if it's related, that every once in a while the presets and the time and everything on the radio will reset. I don't know if it's somehow connected to that fuse, because it doesn't do it every time. It's intermittent and weird, and it's never done it before on this truck, but now since I put this in, it does. That's not much of a concern to me, because it's just the radio, and while it's annoying and I prefer the clock to work on the radio, well, it is a side effect, and I thought I'd bring it up, just mentioning I don't know if it's related, but it seems like it could be, because it never did it before and now it does, even though the radio has its own fuse. So I'm not sure how that's related, but somehow it is intermittently tied together, which is weird. Maybe there's something else going on there, I don't know. And obviously the great side of this system is I can just pull it out and replace that with a regular fuse if I need to. Doesn't change anything about the vehicle that's not really remotely changeable back, you know, in a minute. The long startup time on the HVAC unit, because you got to wait about a minute or two till it goes through that full cycle, is annoying. When you start it up, there's a delay before it actually enters the calibration cycle. Because otherwise, and I think Dorman knew this when they programmed it, otherwise when you turn the key, when you're turning the key, you know, the several clicks, you would turn it to run when you're going towards the start part of the switch, and it would activate it, and then you'd go past it to run, and it would blip off and back on again on run, and, you know, kind of change that cycle. So I think they build in that delay so that you wait till the, you know, the key is going through its cycles, you know, run, start, and then back to run again, and then it engages. And that delay timer kind of takes care of that. So because this is a diesel, you know, I have to sometimes wait for the glow plugs a little bit, but summer that's not a big of an issue, but I'm sure when it's cold out it might be. And it might start the calibration cycle, and then you might have to wait longer because you don't want to interrupt the calibration cycle. So you have to wait for that to finish and then go through the start cycle. So I don't know, but I haven't encountered that yet in the warm weather. It seems to be fine. Oh, there's a giant spider on my tripod. That's exciting. Anyway, squirrel. So it does work. Some little inconveniences I detailed there, but you know, okay, it's working. Anyway, this is kind of a weird episode, and I'm pretty sure that probably other people have covered this kind of fix online for this Dorman unit. I don't know if they've covered the exact reasons behind why the Dorman unit does this, the higher draw and everything, but I'm guessing that's because it has to, it has more processing power inside of it, basically, to hold all the settings for all the units and everything that's involved in that, probably. And anyway, it's different than the factory unit, is what it boils down to, and it's a higher amp draw. You know, at this point, these trucks are really getting old. You know, a lot of these trucks are getting to the 20-year-old range, and this one is 22 years old now, so goodness. Oh, that makes me feel old. I shouldn't have said that out loud. Man, how about one of these trucks brand new back in the day? If you like what we're doing here, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. If I find a permanent solution for this that's better, I'll detail that in a future video, but until that happens, this is a good interim, cheap, fast solution for it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.